Your eyeball doesn't stick out with a perfect curve. It slopes back slightly. Slope this back slightly. Hook and connect to here. Look at your bottom lid's flatter than you think. So don't give me too much of a slope there. I hooked both ends because that becomes the fold here. This becomes the fold up there. You don't need these lines later on. Do you see what's happening? Come from the farthest point and draw that fold. Come here. Your iris is this shape, only you flip it over. So it's kind of like so. So we're taking this curve and flipping it. Your pupil is an ellipse. It's kind of this shape. This eye's a little big on that side. See if I can make this slightly smaller so it looks slightly less oversized. This fold here has to match the eyeball. So if this is your ball, then this fold's coming up like this. So you can kind of guesstimate your ball, your eyeball, and bring this up. Now sometimes the angle of a face is turned so that you can see. Let's figure out where we would see it. Come across. Sometimes you can see the other eyelid over here and part of the eyeball. So I'm coming across. Eyelid here, eyeball there. So sometimes that adds something interesting to your photo or to your drawing. And your eyebrow, which is going to be a bump here, which we will show you as we start to shade. Going to come up. Yeah. So the first thing we're going to do before we do the shading, way up here where your forehead finally bends, this is your hairline. Comes across here into this area. So depending on what kind of hair you've got, comes all the way across. Guys, you might see the front of your hair coming here, kind of like, you'll see it in front of your ear a little bit. We can figure out what you want to put on your hair later, but let's get this entire face shaded in with a base color. It's hard to make something look three-dimensional if we can't draw where the light hits the skin or where the light hits the structure. And we can't have light if we can't erase something. It's easier to shade this in quicker if you're using the side of your pencil. So you're getting this fuzzy look rather than this, the end. So this is a good time to sharpen your pencil and have a long point. So we've got a base color. If you take beginning drawing and painting, you'll learn how to make your skin look even more three-dimensional by using more than just 3 values, light, medium, and dark. So your picture will get more sophisticated you'll understand more about the structure of a face. So you just learn more and more tricks. You become more analytical. And you learn more technique. So I've shaded this all in with a base color or a medium value. And now we need to erase where the light hits the bone structure. So just like in your front view and your 3/4 view faces, it hits the middle of the forehead. And this is going to look blotchy in the middle, or in the beginning, sorry. Don't worry about that blotchiness, we'll blend it in. So right in the middle of the forehead here, that means right above the nose, not over here. The bridge of the nose, not below here, there's shading there. Not above here, because this is in shadow here. The brow bone, so underneath the eyebrow. The cheekbone, and remember the cheekbone is right in here. It's wrapping the orbital socket. So this is right here. It does not go below the nose. It wraps around the face. The top of the wing gets light. The top, or the middle lip down here receives light. Notice this lip is all in shadow. So there's our light. And part of our chin is getting light. We don't have to worry about drawing ears, but the top of your ear would be getting light. And some structure in here would be getting light. I've got pictures and packets on how to draw ears if you'd like to see that. So now let's talk about where we're adding shading before we blend and do any of our accented line. Right here, remember, is the darkest place on a face. So we're putting this shadow in here, letting it come around that eye socket. So this is right in here. The side of our nose has some shading, and it comes right through here, between the wing, and wraps right underneath here, and the bottom half of that wing. Notice that this shadow is still darker. The side of the nose, coming right through here and underneath, and around the bottom of that. We're not blending yet. This trapezoid here, this slope coming up into the forehead. Now this is the third time we've shaded faces on the same bone structure. So some of this should feel pretty familiar to you. Top lip. We're just doing this roughly. We haven't done our interior lines and our accented line, our detail. Where the brow bone bends, that's the low part of your forehead. You can feel it when you put your hands right here. You can feel that depression. right here. Under your cheekbone, you can feel that depression. And we don't want that to look like a blotch later, so we'll blend that in a little bit. Right below here, the way that we have a shadow on our neck, because our head cantilevers or hangs over our neck. So we've got these values in. Let's talk about adding the detail to these areas before we blend. So we can get some color in the iris and get our pupil dark. But remember, we're going to leave a spot of light somewhere on here so that the eye looks like it's alive and moist. So we'll take some light back out in an area. And then this eraser doesn't have a good point to it, so I'm going to just not shade in where I want some light so you can see that. Remember, the edge of the iris is a little darker, and we can draw a little bit of shaded line in some of this area. We can make this back corner, this area, darker. It's underneath the lid, and then get a darker shadow here. We don't see a tear duct, do we? We can get some eyebrows in here. So you can do that with a shadow or a heavier line. Sometimes that's going to bend, and you'll see that bend. If you want eyelashes, they usually can hang up, pull up like this, coming out and up. Or you can just put that shadow over the eye. We're putting some of these in. We're just bringing this up and out. We want to get a nice darker shadow right in this area and let that fade a little. So we can see that that shadow is getting darker as it goes into the nose. Our top lip is darker where it pinches here. And we're going to let the shadow fade into here. Try not to outline that too strong. We can tell that that's skin and that's membrane, but we don't need a big, strong, fake edge there. Now, when you take other art classes or practice drawing, then it would be time to start looking at people and trying to draw a face that's less fake and more realistic. Bottom lip, we're going to put a little bit of shading around the edge, but not as heavy as we've got in here. It's a three-dimensional form, so we need to make it look like it's not flat. Now, let's make sure we can see this edge. An edge shows up strong against a background. And then the last thing to do is just take your index finger, and I'll do it on this side so you can see the difference. But I'm going to start blending this so it looks more like a glowing skin. You can do this with your finger. You can buy little stumps of paper rolled up that actually do this. You can use a tissue. Just careful that if you go over where you need light, you'll want to put that back in so it doesn't look too flat. And you know what? There's light on the front of this eyelid right there. So see how I can exaggerate by just pulling a little of that?